Story 1. The Man Who Never Left. He was declared dead in 1979. But 40 years later, his shadow was seen again. In a town where nothing ever changes, where the same barns have leaned against the same wind for generations, people still remember the day the earth seemed to open and swallow a man whole. His name was Earl Mathers. A farmer, a husband. The kind of man who fixed his neighbor's fences and never forgot a birthday. One evening in late November, he walked into his house and was never seen again. No struggle, no broken window, no open door. Just the soft ticking of a clock that stopped at 11:47 p.m. When the sheriff came, they found dinner still warm on the table. His wife's coat was gone from the hook, but she was found 3 miles away, in the middle of the road, standing barefoot, whispering, "He's still inside." For decades, people thought it was just a tragedy that faded into dust, like all small-town stories do. But the house didn't stay quiet. The Mathers place sits on the edge of Hollow Creek, surrounded by miles of empty cornfields that look the same in every direction. The locals say that in the heart of winter, when the ground turns to glass and the wind cuts like a blade, you can see a light flicker through the upstairs window, like someone pacing with a lantern. The sheriff's office dismissed it for years. Old wiring, they said. Kids playing around. Until 2019, when a deputy went inside. His name was Robert Dwyer, a man who didn't believe in ghosts, legends, or anything he couldn't explain. He walked in with his flashlight and his camera. The next morning, his patrol car was found still idling at the edge of the field. Lights flashing in the fog, his camera was discovered 2 days later, half buried in the snow, still recording. No one ever saw Deputy Dwyer again. And what that footage showed, no one in Hollow Creek will talk about. In towns like this, the past doesn't fade. It waits. Narration, Hollow Creek, Iowa. Population 1,207. A town that looks like every photograph in a history book. Faded storefronts, rusted tractors, quiet porches where time stands still. Everyone knows everyone else. Everyone remembers the same stories. And everyone has driven past the Mathers property at least once. That pale 2-story farmhouse with the collapsed porch and the paint the color of old bones. For years, it's been the kind of place parents point to when they want their kids home before dark. Locals say you can feel the air change as you pass it, heavier, colder. They say no birds land there. The new owners who tried to renovate it back in 1993 stayed less than a week. They left their tools behind, everything from saws to paint cans, and never came back. The sheriff at the time, old Frank Lawson, said they claimed to hear voices through the walls. Not whispering, not screams, just footsteps, slow, moving from room to room. The strange thing was, the footsteps didn't sound above or below. They sounded inside the walls. Every year since, someone claims to see movement in the upper window during the first snowfall. Always the same time, around 11:47 p.m., the same minute Earl Mathers vanished. In January of 2019, Deputy Dwyer volunteered to check the property after neighbors called in reports of lights flickering inside the house again. He wasn't superstitious, just tired of hearing old stories recycled like ghost town gossip. He told dispatch he'd be in and out within 10 minutes. The audio from his radio captured most of it. At first, it's just him narrating his steps. Front doors open, no sign of entry, dust everywhere. Moving to the kitchen, stove's cold, smells like old wood. Something's dripping, can't tell from where. Then, silence for almost 2 minutes. A faint creak. Copy, dispatch. Upstairs, lights on. Don't see a power source. Another pause. Thought I saw someone by the window, white shirt, just standing there. Static follows. A noise, something that sounds like a door slamming far away. Then, his breathing gets heavier. The transmission cuts. The last sound recorded was the same ticking clock from 1979. When search teams arrived, there was no sign of him. Just his footprints, going in through the snow, and none coming out. They found his camera wedged under the back steps. The footage begins in the kitchen. Everything still, covered in dust. Then, at 11:46, the light flickers upstairs. The lens shakes. The focus snaps toward the staircase. A shadow moves at the top landing, not walking, but sliding, like it was being pulled across the floor. Then the screen turns black. When the footage returns, it's morning. The camera's lying on its side, recording the open doorway. No figure, no sound. Just that same ticking clock. Still keeping time. Once. Months later, the county sealed off the house. They said it was unsafe. Black mold, call. Story 2. The children under the bridge. The first scream came from under the bridge. Most people in Bayou Bell don't talk about that night anymore. Not because they've forgotten, but because they can still hear it. They say it started just after midnight, during one of the worst storms the town had ever seen. The kind of rain that eats the sound of your own heartbeat. The kind of lightning that shows you everything, for just a second, before taking it all away again. It was August 12th, 1954. A school bus carrying 12 children was on its way home from a church picnic. The road had already started to flood. The driver hesitated at the bridge, a narrow, rusted stretch of metal and wood that crossed the Vermilion River. Locals always said it swayed when trucks passed, groaned when the weather turned. That night, the driver tried to make it across anyway. He didn't make it halfway before the bridge began to shake. The river had risen too high, the current too strong. The last thing anyone saw was a set of headlights vanishing beneath the water, and the faint sound of children screaming as the bus was pulled into the dark. They searched for days. They dragged the river with hooks, sifted through the mud, even drained parts of the swamp downstream. They found nothing. Not the bus, not the driver, not a single child. Only tire marks, leading halfway across the bridge, and then gone. For a long time, people tried to forget. The bridge was repaired, the road repaved. The river looked the same again. Calm. Too calm. But the first storm after the flood changed everything. It began with a noise, faint at first, a single scream echoing from beneath the bridge. People thought it was just the wind cutting through the metal beams. But then came another sound. Laughter, small, light. The kind of laughter you'd hear in a schoolyard. Except it wasn't coming from above the water. It was coming from underneath. The sheriff at the time, a man named Henry Lacroix, was the first to investigate. He and 2 deputies walked down to the riverbank, flashlights shaking in their hands as the wind pushed against the reeds. They said they saw ripples forming in perfect circles, like something was rising from below. but nothing came up. Just laughter, soft, distant. They left that night without a word. And by morning, Sheriff Lacroix had sealed the road. He told the townspeople, "The bridge isn't safe." But that's not what he really meant. A year later, the road reopened. New bridge, fresh paint, steel supports. They called it progress. But the locals say the laughter never stopped. Every time it rained, every time thunder rolled across the bayou, people swore they could hear it again. Some said it sounded like children playing tag in the rain. Others said it was crying. Either way, it came from the same place, under the bridge. Farmers driving home late at night said their radios would cut out halfway across. Truckers heard tapping on their windows, tiny fingers brushing the glass. One man swore he saw small handprints on the outside of his windshield, though it hadn't rained in days. The people of Bayou Bell stopped crossing after dark. They made detours, built longer routes, told their kids stories to keep them away. But every small town has someone who doesn't listen. And for Bayou Bell, that someone was Caleb Roy, a freelance journalist chasing what he called forgotten hauntings of the American South. He'd heard the stories online, the crying children, the bridge that hummed when it rained. He thought it was folklore, the kind that grows in towns too quiet to forget their ghosts. He drove in on July 9th, 2017, just before midnight, right as a summer storm began to roll in. Locals warned him not to stop on the bridge, but that's exactly what he did. Caleb set up his microphone on the dashboard of his car. He started recording. For 10 minutes, it was nothing but rain, thunder, and the hum of his engine. Then he heard it, faint, distant, but unmistakable. Laughter, not one voice, several. Children. The audio captures him stepping out of the car. You can hear the door open, the rain pouring harder. He walks to the edge of the bridge. His voice trembles as he whispers, "Is someone there?" There's silence. Then, 3 seconds later, a scream. It comes from directly beneath him. That was the last time anyone heard Caleb Roy's voice. His car was found the next morning, engine still running, headlights still on. The recorder was sitting on the passenger seat, still recording. The final minute of audio contains only 2 things: the sound of rain hitting metal, and a faint whisper of a child's voice saying his name. To this day, no one crosses the Bayou Bell Bridge during a storm. Truckers speed up as they approach it. Locals roll up their windows and pray their radios don't cut out. But every now and then, when the clouds are low and the river rises, someone claims to hear it again, laughter echoing a fib. Story 3. The Sheriff of Nowhere. He pulled me over in the middle of nowhere, but the badge number didn't exist. That's how the first report began. A routine traffic stop, somewhere along a quiet stretch of highway between Tombstone and Bisbee. Midnight sky, miles of desert in every direction. Not a single pair of headlights except his. The driver said the patrol car came out of nowhere. No dust, no sound, no sign of approach. Just the flash of red and blue lights in the rearview mirror. The kind of sight that makes your stomach drop, even when you've done nothing wrong. The man said the officer walked up slow, tall, quiet, calm. The uniform looked old, crisp, but dated. The kind they hadn't worn in decades. He handed over his license. The officer studied it under the beam of a flashlight. The driver remembers the beam shaking slightly, not from wind, not from movement, but like the light itself was flickering. Then the man spoke. Just 3 words. "Drive safe out here." No ticket, no warning. The driver blinked, and the patrol car was gone. At first, no one believed it. But then came another report, and another, and another. Each one the same, a flashing light in the dark, a calm voice at the window, a badge number that led nowhere. The police department in Cochise County said there was no record of an officer by that name. No patrol assigned to that highway after 9 p.m. No cruiser matching that description on any roster. And yet, travelers kept seeing him. Some described an old sheriff's car, a white and tan Crown Victoria from the 1980s, lights still mounted, radio still hissing static. Others said it was older, the kind used back in the 1950s, chrome trim, spotlight on the driver's side, engine purring like something alive. Whatever it was, it always appeared the same way, out of the dark, right behind you, until the lights came on. Truckers who drive that stretch after midnight call it the mile that doesn't end. Because for 8 miles, the road bends just enough that you can't see what's ahead. And by the time you realize someone's behind you, it's already too late. One driver swore he saw the cruiser pull up alongside him, keeping perfect speed. The man in the driver's seat turned his head and smiled. Then, the car just faded, not into the distance, but right in front of him, like it had never been there at all. They say the first person to ever see him was Deputy Walter Haynes back in 1972. He'd stopped on that same stretch to check a stranded vehicle. The logbook says his radio went dead at 12:03 a.m. The next morning, his patrol car was found abandoned by the side of the road, door open, engine running, headlights still on. Haynes was never found. The only thing left behind was a half-written citation for speeding. The name on the ticket was his own. After that, the department stopped sending patrols to that section at night. Officially, they said it was budget cuts. Unofficially, no one wanted to be out there past midnight. The locals call it Sheriff's Mile. They say if you're driving through and you see flashing lights in your mirror, you keep going. Don't stop, don't pull over, don't even slow down, because once you do, he'll step out of his car, tip his hat, and tell you what he's told every driver since 1972. Drive safe out here, and then you'll never see him again. Some say he's a ghost. Some say he's a copycat who never got caught. But a few believe something else entirely. That the sheriff isn't haunting the road. He's guarding it, watching, waiting, for the ones who don't listen. In 2021, a dash cam captured footage of flashing patrol lights on that same road. The clip shows a vehicle pulling over, brake lights glowing red against the black sand. You can see the outline of a sheriff's car behind it, plain as day. The lights flicker once, twice, and then nothing. The car disappears mid-recording. Just gone. The next morning, the driver who took that video was found 10 miles down the road. His car had veered off into the sand. He didn't survive the crash. And when they found him, the dash cam was still recording. The screen flashing with static, the sound of a police siren echoing somewhere far away. So if you ever find yourself driving through the desert after midnight, and you see red and blue lights behind you, think carefully before you pull over, because on that road, there's a sheriff who never made it home. And he's still out there, waiting for someone to stop.